This is Off the Red Carpet with George Pennacchio, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Off the Red Carpet. I'm George Pennacchio, and today we are really going off the red carpet, but there's a story that I must tell before we get to our interview subject for the day. So about 2 years ago, my personal trainer moved out of the state, and a friend of mine said, "You've got to use this guy, you've got to use this guy." And I wasn't ready, and I liked not working out, and I knew it wasn't good for me, and it was starting to show physically. So I finally agreed to meet this guy, and he became my personal trainer. And as time went on, he was telling me that he had this idea to write a book, and he had this whole thing sorted out of how he was going to do it, and it was going to include faith and fitness and a whole lot of other things to make us more whole, to make us better people, to make us look good physically, and to make us feel good mentally. So this was the process. And as we were working out for 2 years, I kept hearing this story every step of the way. Well, guess what? Alec Penix is now an author, not only a personal trainer to a lot of stars, but an author as well. And his book is called 7 Sundays. It's a faith, fitness, and food plan for lasting spiritual and physical change. And we are getting Alec Penix right now as the book is really just coming out. So congratulations on this. And did you ever think really this would become a reality when we were walking the streets of the San Fernando Valley doing step-ups?
No, I didn't actually, but I just want to say thanks, George, for having me on today, first of all. I really didn't think it was going to happen or get to this point. It was sort of a dream, and I think that when these dreams come true in our lives, I think anyone can relate to this. It's like, oh, wow, we are working with something bigger than us. And so now that it's to this point, I am just trying to enjoy the process as much as I possibly can and not freak out. Come on, I'm in front of the legend here, George, here. And that introduction was just phenomenal, I have to say.
Well, I think it's fantastic that you had a dream and you made it happen. And in this book, you actually let people know that they can achieve things too in different ways. And what I love, I think, most about reading this is that you don't let people be hard on themselves. If they don't follow a meal plan, it's okay sometimes. If they miss their exercise, forgive yourself. You have a lot of forgiveness in here, which I think is key because we all feel that if we fail once, we're done.
Right. Well, I think it's a projection of what I had to develop that relationship with myself over the years. We're always our worst critic, right? We're always so hard on ourselves. So in order for me to succeed personally, I knew that I had to develop sort of a softer relationship, allow myself to, if I failed, it was like, okay, that's fine. What did I learn from this mistake? And then move forward from there. And I also think that a lot of times we pay attention so much to our mistakes that we overlook our little victories. And little victories could be like, all right, well, it's the holiday season and I just stopped eating right when I felt content. I didn't overeat. I just stopped eating, and I'm like, oh, and I feel good. That's a victory.
I agree.
And so people don't look at those things as victories, and I talk a little bit about that in the book. When you push away that cheesecake for the first time, go look at yourself in the mirror and say, wow, I'm amazing. I can't believe I just did that. So it's paying attention to those little things, and I think that it builds a success habit. And once you build those little victories over and over and over again, you start to empower yourself and to move on to bigger and better things.
Well, I can tell you that it works, especially while you're reading it, because I read the bulk of this book on a plane. And the flight attendant was coming by to offer me a nice hot fudge sundae with whipped cream and nuts, and I had to take the fruit plate. So thanks a lot.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's great news, especially being my client. I can't tell you, I have tears coming down right now, and I'm just so excited for you because I know how difficult that is on a plane, especially to turn away that cake. It's just
sugar's good.
It just should taste so good, right?
It's not good, but it
that's
tastes good.
What a healthy alternative. I do talk about healthy alternatives in the book. Actually, that's a huge step into the whole diet program. Is focusing, okay, not just getting rid of the bad foods, but what can we replace for those bad foods. Educating people and directing them into the right path. And I think that there are a lot of maybe exercise books out there that just say eat this, this, and this, and you don't really know that this is actually a substitute for this. So we're actually educating the reader as well during the nutritional process.
So before we get to the book, we're going to get to your past a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
You can see his present right now on his Instagram page, which is Alec the Trainer on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you'll see that he gives you a lot of tips there that might make you want to buy the book. And the proof is in the video, because you're very, very physically fit. But as a child, you were bullied, and that's kind of surprised me that someone as fit as you and who athleticism has meant so much for an entire life had a little bit of trouble, like most of us, like me, when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I think that stemmed me for writing this book is because of my past. When I was 5, my parents got a divorce, and then on top of that, I was diagnosed with a learning disability around that same time. And because of that disability, like you said, I was bullied a lot in school. They would call me things like SPED, which means special education, if you're not aware, or they would say I was stupid. So I was always a positive kid, so I was able to sort of harness that pain that came from those experiences, and I channeled it into things like working out and sports to overcompensate for that image that I allowed to attach to me. But I look back at that time and I thank God for that, because if it wasn't for those experiences, I wouldn't be the person who I am. And not to sound arrogant, but I love who I am now. And so it was through those times that I was able to sort of harness something a little bit deeper. It gave me a gift of having empathy towards other people. It gave me the gift to want to contribute to the world in a much larger level. And it gave me just an incredible passion for life. And so, like I said, if it wasn't for those times, I wouldn't be where I was or where I am now. And I sort of developed that ability, the aesthetic part that was always a part of my journey. It was always, I guess, my natural gift along the way. But then one day it all changed, and that was when I was in Mexico, and I was celebrating the night before. And I'll let you read in between the lines, George, on that one. Okay. I woke up the next morning, or I should say evening. I was laying in bed, and I was feeling terrible. I was probably in one of the darkest times of my life. And I think this was the first time I've ever prayed out loud, and I said to God, I was like, I need something here. I'm crying out. I was like spiritually malnourished, I tell people. And I heard a voice at that time and said, Alec, it is time to become the man I've called you to be. It's the time. It was that time. And so from that point on, that was like the start of my spiritual awakening, or my relationship with God. And he was sort of the catalyst of what enlightened me to have this attached to this spiritual aspect to fitness or to this program, because I started seeing it change my own life. And once it started changing my own life, it started filtering into my business and into my clients. It wasn't like this, you have to believe in God in order to be fulfilled in life. And it's not a religious thing. It was something that was just, it was a light. It was an enthusiasm. It was a passion for life that came from me. And it came into my clients, and they're like, wow, what is this? This is different. And so it allowed me to develop a new relationship with my clients.
I thought reading the book, if you are a religious person, if you are a big believer, if you go to church every Sunday, there is, I would call, added bonus to reading this, because there is a lot of that in there. But if you're not as spiritual, and you're just an average person who might go to church a couple times a year, you know those people, right?
Yeah.
I think you can actually skim or read those areas a little bit faster, and then still get to the lessons that you're trying to teach, because basically you are trying to help people be better people. You were saying grace over gossip, things like that, that are really just making yourself be more positive. And when you don't have that negativity, a lot of people believe you are healthier anyway, because stress adds a lot, and negative thinking can be bad for your body, right?
Yeah. I really wanted to enlighten the reader, to show them that they're much more than just physical, that they are body, mind, and spirit. And by strengthening all three aspects of the body, mind, and spirit, that is how I believe that you become the best version of who you are. And that's why I have things like offering, and I'm sure you're going to want to talk to me more about this later on. But
Well, explain what an offering is.
yeah, an offering is a way of giving back. I tell the people that the quickest way to get out of depression is to give back. It changes our biochemistry into a state of gratitude. And when we see that our life isn't so bad after all, and that there are people out there really struggling, and I think it's really important to see this, especially this time of year, that it really puts things in perspective for us, and we begin to appreciate what we have and begin to be content. And not to say that be content and not want to better your life, but once we appreciate what we do have, we start creating this affluent mindset and start allowing bigger and better things into our lives.
Great. So the offering, it's with 7 Sundays, there are 6 weeks of becoming a better person, both spiritually and physically, and it's all aimed at wellness, I think is probably the best word.
Right.
But I'm shocked at this. So this is your first book, and on the cover, Kathy Lee Gifford is giving a quote. On the back, you've got Devon Franklin, you've got Shawn Mendes, you've got Roma Downey, and Derek Huff. I don't know how that happens for a first-time author.
I don't either.
Well, explain Shawn Mendes.
Well, Shawn, it's funny how Hollywood works. My manager and good friend Jay Schwartz always tells me it's all about relationships in that voice, and I always laugh but he's so right. It really is. So when it all started for me to become that celebrity trainer is when I went on tour with Big Time Rush. And because of that tour, it really opened up a lot of doors for me. And I met a lot of people, developed a lot of relationships, and one thing led to another, and that's how I started training Shawn. And, I mean, we all know he's already in great shape, but it's really, I think, it stems from just trying to be the best person you can be, being nice, and I think you sort of attract more of the good things in life. And I think that you look at the book, the cover and the back, and you see all those names. Listen, I have no idea how that happened.
One thing that I struggle with all the time, so we know what the offer is. You tell somebody to do something nice for somebody else, and often selflessly, and that's healthy. Mm-hmm. Sleep is another thing that you are obsessed with over the course of this book, and I am a sleep struggler. So I read some of these things. Give some of the tips, including, like I remember you said, keep the temperature down and maybe stick your feet outside the blankets.
Yeah, we don't really we don't think those little things are a big deal. The temperature, having clean sheets, turning off all electronics like an hour before you go to bed. We don't think those are important, or even keeping your bedroom for sleeping and the other things. Relaxation, not entertainment or work. So it's important to develop those boundaries when it comes to sleeping and being intentional with your sleep. I tell people when you don't get enough sleep, it's like you're being drunk. And so when you're drunk, you're impaired to making good decisions. So if you crave cheesecake and you're not sleeping a lot or not getting quality sleep, the chances of you actually turning to that cheesecake increases. Oh. Yes. So George, come on, man. You got to start sleeping, buddy.
All right. I'm trying. But, you read the first week and you tell me something about sleep and I think, oh, I've got that nailed. And then you come to week 2 and then there's another issue involving sleep that might affect me. And then you get to week 3 and it's again. So sleep is a process and you give it to us little by little, which is what you do with the exercise, because you will start by letting people just walk for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the day. But by the time you end the week, it's an hour. And then you're adding all these different reps and exercises and how you're letting them know how to do them in another place. It's become a little multi-dimensional, right? Because they can watch somehow how to do a burpee, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said earlier that it's like, well, I thought we're going slow on this, and then all of a sudden you were going to be walking an hour when it was just 20 minutes. Like, what's going on here? But we really tried to make it so that the progression is I feel is healthy and anyone could achieve it. But when it comes to the exercises on my website is actually where you can go and you can see how all the exercises are done, and I'll be doing the demonstration. So hopefully, you guys like it.
And what's the website?
It's AlecPenix.com.
AlecPenix.
It's Penix, everyone. It's Penix.
Got it. All right, so then you do the nutrition, and we start out easy with that too. You don't force us into anything really fast.
Mm-hmm.
You let us kind of assimilate into a new way of thinking about what we're going to eat and understanding the foods we're eating. And it's interesting that you have said what other people have said in the past as well, that you want to have something in your body that's been on this earth for a long time, and not necessarily a word that's 13 to 18 letters that has some kind of chemicals in it.
Yeah, if you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't be eating it. That's what I tell people. But it's really, I had to go through this own transformation. As being a trainer, I need convenience. I'm on my feet all the time. I'm working. And so turning to even protein bars, I was turning to the wrong protein bars that had those names that you couldn't pronounce. Then finding things, making that shift to finding maybe other bars out there that are all natural, have very little ingredients that come from that time, that God's creation. So going through that shift of just consuming whole food, regular wholesome food, I really started not only seeing my body change, but I started seeing my mind. I started getting more energy. It really started inside out. I began to see that transformation, and that's why I wanted to stress that in this book. But if you look at the first week in this book, it's called Illumination, and that's really bringing awareness to your eating habits. I tell people to log what you eat and to pay attention to the foods you eat.
And to be honest,
yes,
which is really hard to do sometimes, but it makes us more accountable, so we do it, and it's a smart thing to have us do.
Yeah, you're only cheating yourself at the end of the day if you're not being honest. So having that awareness is the first step in order to make any type of change in whatever we do.
Well, I'm going to say this for all the listeners right now, because you are making a claim, and I'm going to make you answer this question.
Oh, gosh.
But in your book, you say, after 7 Sundays, you will be fitter and stronger than when you started. You'll eat better, you'll sleep better, you'll be more confident.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that's the truth. See, I apply these methods in my own life, and because of that, I've seen my own transformation, and I want people to get a piece of that. Like, no, listen, this is where I started, and now this is where I am. This is how I feel about myself. This is how I feel about my life, and it's because of these little habits every single day that I did that to really help me transform from the inside out to become that best version of who I am.
Okay, so here's something I love. I kind of sometimes think that I smile for a living, right? I'm on TV all the time.
Great smile, by the way.
Smiling, thank you very much. But you have people in your training world that is an issue for, and you talk about the power of a smile and how that helps people in their overall health. Explain yourself, Alec Penix.
Yeah. I had one particular client, I'm not going to mention any names here, but he would always walk in and he had sort of like this grumpy face, or just, well, it didn't seem, I don't know, it just didn't seem happy. And so I approached him one day and I said, hey, you ever tried about like just faking it till you make it type of thing? Just smile even though you don't feel like it. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll try it. And he applied it, and he started seeing a change. And then he started seeing the people around him act differently around him. And then because he was more inviting. And so it really does change not only your external life, but also your internal, because when we smile, it changes our biochemistry. It releases certain hormones that begins to make us happier, right? So that's why there's really a method to the madness. Even a simple smile can go a long way.
I think that's good, because it says, see, I exercised today, I smiled, I did something.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing that I'm glad you write about is that you say the older you are, the more benefits you'll actually get from exercising. And I think I'm of a certain age now. There are certain things I can't do, but how I'm proud that at least I go out there and try to do something, right?
Let me tell you, everyone who's listening to this podcast, George does the best squats that anyone I've ever seen. So they're amazing. No, we have a great time working out. But I have a message in the book that says anything is possible, and I really believe it applies to what you're talking about right now. So it's never too late to start a fitness program. So don't allow those thoughts to enter into your brain. Just reject them and then focus on what you want.
In chapter 2, you say something that I think is a mantra. Many people feel this way. If I just lose 15 pounds, then I'd be happy. I mean, I have said that myself and have lost 15 pounds, and then you want to lose 5 more, or then there's still something missing.
Yep. So what happens? You're never content. You're never happy. You go on this path of someday I will be happy, and you realize it eludes you the whole way through. Whereas I want people to be content on where they are right now. I think that's important. It's like you said earlier, this whole book, you will lose weight. You will feel stronger. You will feel mentally stronger. But it's about who you become in the process. I think it's important as well, and to pay attention to that. So, yes, lose those 15 pounds, but also be happy where you are now, please.
Okay. You learn something each week in your book as you're reading it anyway. Week by week, there's some new knowledge, but you decided to kind of give us the knowledge in an easy way. It's not forced on us so fast that it's too much to take in. Mm-hmm. Was there a lot of editing that went on in that process so you didn't overwhelm us with be better, be better, be better?
I think that's just naturally who I've become. In terms of with my own journey, if it's working out or if it's anything else that I'm trying to get better at, I always take step by step and I'll allow myself to soak in the moments and allow myself to build off the little victories. And I think that's important, that we just go at a reasonable pace for ourselves in order to be kind, in order to do what's right for you.
Okay. Here's something that I never really thought of, and you and I do this when we work out, even though it's at night. You don't want to always take the same walk. And if you're working out in the afternoon, nature has its own distractions that make the walk maybe a little more pleasant when you're doing the exercise, right?
Yeah.
Is that why people are always in these LA canyons walking around?
Yeah, well, that's why one of the reasons why I always try to take a new route with you, George, is because you always have a tendency to stop right in the middle of the street when the cars are coming. So I want to take the route of least resistance. But variety is key. I get a lot that my workout is mundane, it's boring, and so people lose that motivation to continue to exercise, to work out. And so I want to give them a sense of variety to keep them excited about the next day.
When you were talking about getting a healthier mind, some of the things you ask your readers to do is maybe visit someone who's sick, give some money to a charity organization, volunteer your time, say a prayer for someone.
Right.
All these things that are acts of selflessness that help somebody else. Why is it important to help somebody else if you're just trying to get better yourself?
Because it helping someone else really does something amazing. It gives you like this supernatural energy, this power that I say, that you just, the more you give of yourself to other people, the more energy you get in return, because it gives you this sense of empowerment that when you just do everything for you, it becomes kind of selfish in a sense. And I want people to empower themselves, but in a way, sort of one of the pieces in order to do that successfully is about giving back.
I was thinking as I was reading your book that you could do a second book with kind of pictures and simple tips, because I learned things that I didn't know. Bananas help prevent muscle cramps and help with blood pressure. Pears are good for your cholesterol. Papaya may reduce your risk of cancer, and fresh cranberries are proven to increase your HDL. This is all good information.
Yeah,
I mean, this is all real food.
Right. Tricks are so important. Over the years, as a trainer, I try to develop little tricks like that. And well, this food is good for that. This exercise is good for that. Just simple things where the reader, the client can relate to it and like, oh, I get that. Okay, it makes sense. And so when it makes sense to them, I think they're more adapt to making those changes.
Nice. In the third Sunday of your book, you are getting rid of foods that were not here 10 years ago.
Yeah. We call them faithless foods, and there's really, you don't have to apply any religious significance to it. But what I'm really trying to have the reader do is to be intentional about what they eat, create an emotional relationship with the foods they eat. Eating is emotional, right? When we're emotional, a lot of us, when we're stressed, we go and turn to certain foods. So I want us to start developing better relationships with the right food, and understanding why I don't want people to eat this bad food. So it's just about being more intentional. We're just not going and sitting down and just putting food in your mouth, but understanding what I'm taking in, what are these foods going to give me, and how is this going to give me or transform my life.
One of the things you'd love us to get rid of is real processed sugar.
Yeah.
And one of your substitutes is what, natural stevia extract?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one thing that you say in this book, which I think is a really good example, is you give up all that sugar and you're eating the stevia and all that, and then one day you go and you want to have a piece of cheesecake. What's it going to taste like?
Well, it's gonna be just, it won't taste like the normal cheesecake. Let's just take that you're used to eating.
You're gonna taste the fat and butter, aren't you?
Yeah, it's gonna overpower you, and that's what we want. We want you to see. We want you to develop a relationship with not eating those foods, and then when you turn back to that, allow it to just empower you, or allow it to show you that it's like, wow, like this doesn't taste the same as it used to. This is what you do to this cheesecake, George.
So is there, say, a protein bar that you recommend that feels like it might have some sugar in it, but maybe doesn't?
Well, I think I mentioned to you earlier that one of my things was I would eat protein bars that I couldn't pronounce the name. And so when I ate them, this comes back to that cheesecake analogy that you made. I didn't understand when I would eat these protein bars, it would actually be hard for me to digest. It was almost like a brick into my stomach. And so once I shifted into finding a protein bar that was all natural, like a G2G bar that I turned to, that is all natural, I now digest that properly and efficiently, and it makes me feel good. And so now when I go back to those bars by chance, I don't feel as great.
So I shouldn't keep buying what's on sale at the grocery store. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, those bars are probably not good.
All right. So there's one more question I want to ask you, because I just thought it was fascinating that it was in a fitness book. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Why is making your bed important to your overall day?
They say that developing the little habits, the little disciplines in life lead to the bigger disciplines, the bigger breakthroughs. And the first thing they say is by making your bed in the morning, the first thing you do, you start to empower yourself. So I keep on repeating myself, but little victories are so important, and this goes right back to that.
I don't think it's bad to repeat yourself, because it's all going back to a central theme of getting a healthier body and mind, right?
Right. And then not only that, but what's the best thing when you get home at night and you see this bed with clean sheets and it's made? You're gonna be like, I can't wait to get in that bed and fall asleep.
What is it like for somebody who spends his days in a gym to suddenly be on a little bit of a publicity tour to talk about his book? I know you're going to be heading to New York to do Good Morning America later this month. This is a different life for you.
It is a totally different life, and I want people to understand that when they embark on 7 Sundays and it forces them out of their comfort zone, just know that what I'm doing right now is definitely forcing me out of my comfort zone. This is not, I can train people blindfolded. Like, that's just who I've been doing it for my whole life. But doing this right now with you, George, you're like so skilled at this. This is what you do. This is who you are. But it isn't who I am. It's not something that I've really developed yet and feel like super competent and confident in. but I'm doing it anyways because there's a bigger cause here. I want to help people and I want to get the message out. So regardless of how I feel, I still do it anyways.
Well, you're just basically saying right there that you're like somebody else who's coming into the fitness world. So if they're listening to this podcast, they can do it too.
Yes,
just like
exactly.
You're doing this.
Exactly.
Okay, I
Exactly.
like that.
Okay.
I also heard from a good source, which I believe, that your book is going to be very easy to find.
Yes, it's going to be super easy. You can actually, well, first of all, it'll be in every Barnes & Noble in the country, which is just an amazing thing. You can go on their website as well, and then you can also go on Amazon and get it right now if you want.
Okay, I'm going to do your humble brag. I understand it's going to be at the tables in the front with all those big books for the holiday season.
What was the first thing I said to you?
I think that's great.
I just think that it's going to be just awesome. When I told you the other day that my mom and my dad could go to a Barnes & Noble in Michigan, where I'm from, and they can go to the store and they can see their son at the new release table, and that, to me, that's just worth the whole journey.
So this book is aimed at making us better. Did writing it make you better?
Yeah, this whole journey has made me better. This whole journey has shown me that I'm much more than I ever thought. I've underestimated myself my whole entire life, and because of that disability, I think it really limited me and put me in this box.
Did you overcome this disability?
I'm overcoming it. I'm beginning to know that I am not becoming somebody, but I am somebody. You know, I believe that we're all created in the image and likeness of God. I believe we all share that. But because of this journey, it has stretched me so far out of my comfort zone. I mean, I never thought in a million years I would write a book, nor was I creative enough to write a book. And believe me, once it started to take its course, I was like, oh wow, like there is some creativity deep down inside of me. Like I'm not just this meathead trainer, you know. There's a little more there.
So there are people that I've interviewed over the course of my broadcasting career in show business, including Meryl Streep, who gets a job and then fears she's never going to get another job. And she's Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're never going to get another book, or are you already racing with 6 ideas in your head?
That's a good question. I mean, I hope to get another book. I do have ideas of another book. But right now, my focus is to stay right here, right now with you and what I need to do, because it requires all my attention, all my focus to do what I'm doing right now in order for me to be in my game, in order for people to see and feel my enthusiasm. So if I look too far ahead, I may not give them the best that they deserve.
So what is the one promise before we go that you have for anyone who might read your book?
My promise is that once you get done reading my book, that you will truly believe that anything is possible.
Awesome. Our guest today is Alec Penix. He is the author of 7 Sundays. It's a faith, fitness, and food plan for lasting spiritual and physical change. You'll find it in Barnes & Nobles all across the country. Alec the Trainer on Instagram, and his website is AlecPenix.com if you want to see how to do some of the exercises he has in his book. Last words, Alec.
You could also find me on Facebook as well as Alec Penix the Trainer.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
All right, so thanks for joining us for another edition of Off the Red Carpet. I'm George Pennacchio. I hope you enjoyed this particular segment that really took us off the red carpet. It's a little out of my comfort zone, but knowing Alec and knowing the warm person that he is, I'm wishing you great success with your book. Okay.
Thank you.